to cooperate with the external movement as you are diplomatic representatives or whatever. There's this also sense that we don't want to take orders from you. This is our this is our struggle, and so and I emphasize this because sometimes both sides want to say it. You're either with Polisario or with Morocco. But in fact, there are also those who are just as dedicated to ending the Moroccan occupation and having a free, independent Western Sahara, but are increasingly distrustful of the Polisario leadership, and again want to take leadership more into their own hands. Yes.
Sometimes there's, I suppose, a more Marxist structural view that might argue that you need a certain kind of class composition in order to support certain kinds of movement.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see the role of middle versus working class participation in these movements? I mean, do you need a class that has time on its hands to plot, to plan strategy, nonviolent strategy, and disseminate it? Because you need full-time activists.
Yeah, I mean, even most Marxist revolutions have been led by educated, middle-class people. And I think one could say there are certain advantages to this, but you got to have a much more diverse following if you're going to, or a movement overall, if you're going to make a difference. I mean, frankly, for me, that critical period when I thought, oh my God, they're going to win this thing, was when the unions, when labor joined. Was it third week or something? That was big. That was huge. And it was another reason why I predicted Egypt would be among the first to do this, because they actually have a industrial working class, which a number of countries in that part of the world don't. And of course, that especially if you want to do general strikes and kind of disrupt the system, people putting down their tools, not I think the classic Marxist or even anarchist idea of the power of workers ultimately to shut the system down is something that's very apparent. Again, it works better in a country like Egypt than a rentier state where you don't have much of an industrial working class. But you do need, again, well, one can argue that there are certain advantages of having intellectuals or middle class people who can kind of evaluate the bigger picture. It's something you certainly can't do alone. Again, Tiananmen Square, which is almost exclusively a student thing, is a clear example of the limitations if you don't have a more expanded class base.
Yeah, because that's true. The working class did not actually join the student protest in China. A lot of people have argued that's the critical point of failure, that workers didn't join the students.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
After the deposition of Mubarak, did the Egyptians open the border crossing to Gaza?
My understanding is that they have, if someone knows more on this, please correct me. My understanding is that they have somewhat loosened the restrictions of what can and can't go in and out in terms of humanitarian goods, but things are still they're still they're not allowing people to bring in arms or components that could be used for military purposes. I think. Though I think a more democratic Egypt is certainly going to be more sympathetic to the Palestinian cause overall, I think they're pragmatic enough to recognize that provoking Israel, either directly or via Hamas, would not be very smart. Yeah.
I want to ask about Syria. Maybe got the Hajj involved in this too. When does Syria fit into all this?
In many ways, frankly, I'm a little surprised that Syria has gone as far as it has. And I think in part because the Assad regime has just really made a series of really stupid blunders so far. I mean, I think because they have a party, you know, because they have a broader, somewhat broader social base. I mean, I think if they'd been smart, they could have. If they'd lifted the state of emergency like the first week instead of 2 days ago or whatever it was, for example, you know, it could have really helped. But I think things have gone along. I mean, you know, it has a I mean, these uprisings are almost every corner of the country now, and they are getting more and more broad-based. I mean, I think it's possible that if they got smart, they could enact a whole series of pretty major reforms. Since again, they have the infrastructure and to do this. But thus far I've overestimated their intelligence in terms of responding, and so I don't know what to predict at this point. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I was gonna just kind of ask your opinion on. So I spent last summer about a month in Burkina Faso, West Africa. So I wasn't too surprised to hear the civil war in the Ivory Coast in this kind of current time. But about a week ago, there was a kind of uprising, a whole resituating of the army in Burkina Faso. And not even a year ago, you know, I was there in a medical environment, and it seemed to be pretty stable.
Yeah.
Granted, massive poverty, you know, an alarmingly small elite class, but is violence contagious? Is this part of the ongoing?
No. I think it has more to do with the unique, you know, situation, you know, there. I think though we are seeing more nonviolent. I mean, in many ways, it seems more like almost a more interelite struggle between various factions in the armed forces and other things. But we have started to see some protests creeping south in Senegal, in Djibouti. We've had some nascent movements even in Egypt and Eritrea already, which have been stirring up. You know, so I think, you know, there can be something of a contagion effect, but in terms of success, it has a lot to do with strategy. I mean, people think somehow, you know, again, think, well, they did here, we can do it there, but you can't. I mean, just like despite his best effort, Che couldn't replicate Cuba elsewhere in Latin America. You know, things can't. You got to think smart strategically. I mean, I'm a consultant for a group called the International Center on Nonviolent Conflict, and which helped support the workshop in Egypt and elsewhere. And occasionally, they'll have somebody, you know, from some young guy from the Venezuelan bourgeoisie who will come in and say, "Hey guys, help us make a revolution in Venezuela like the other places," and it's like, you know, I'm not a big fan of Chavez, but these guys are not going to lead it. I'm sorry, you know, it's gonna. They're still a minority. They're still identified with the old elite. You know, you need to have a broad base, you know, movement. You got to work for years. It's not a magic pill that you can take and suddenly you're going to have, you know, this massive struggle. Oh, before people start to leave again, can we circulate both first a sign-up sheet for my email list and have one ready for those who want the books if they run out before you leave. Yeah. Sure.
We'll put the email addresses down on this particular piece of paper. Maybe you can take one more question while things.
I saw 3 more hands, so if we do the 3 real quick. But yeah.
Just a general question about democracy, Hamas, and nonviolence.
Yeah.
I'll leave it up to you.
Okay. Well, you know, after the whole flotilla incident, it was interesting. And one Hamas leader said, "This flotilla thing did more for us than 1,000 rockets." And indeed, despite the way some people in the West tried to make it appear that somehow the flotilla people were the aggressors, I think most people recognize that this illegal attack of a humanitarian aid ship in the high seas was violation of national humanitarian law, and especially in the reports that 5 of the 9 people killed were shot execution style in the back.